So in the past, I used to feel like I just couldn't be a consistent person. I would commit to something like a new routine, a new system, a new habit, and it would be fine in the beginning, maybe for the first few days or so. But within a week or two, it would completely fall apart. And it wasn't because I didn't care about it or because I didn't try. It was that I just wasn't aware that things like time blindness, task paralysis, and just the way that my brain processes things in general were working against me on a daily basis. But once I started to understand the ADHD specific reasons that staying consistent was always so hard for me, I was able to change a few things. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the real reasons why you might have issues staying consistent with ADHD, and then I'm going to share some practical ways that you can start building consistency regardless. And no, the point is not to try harder. It's for you to understand what's really going on so you can work with your brain instead of against your brain. Before we get into this, I do want to make sure you're aware of the habit blocker self assessment that is linked in the description below. If you've ever wondered why certain habits just never seem to stick for you, no matter how hard you try, this is going to help you figure out exactly what's getting in your way. You can grab it for free at the link in the description. So, consistency can be difficult with ADHD for several reasons. One of the reasons is that dopamine dysregulation can really affect our motivation levels and our ability to follow through with things. This makes it harder for us to be motivated by future goals because we tend to really crave and respond to immediate rewards. This creates a gap where we really do want to do something and follow through with it, but we end up stalling when it's time to act because we may not have enough dopamine at that moment to make starting feel worth it. And also, willpower isn't as effective when you deal with dopamine dysregulation. Think of it like a battery. The battery drains extremely fast with dopamine dysregulation, and it's like you're starting at 40% charge every day instead of 100% charge. And telling yourself to just push through it only works so many times because when your brain isn't cooperating, you can't really just do that. Then the cycle of trying and failing makes you end up feeling worse about yourself, which leads to even lower levels of motivation. And once again, none of this means that you're lazy, but certain differences that come with ADHD can make it really difficult for us to stay consistent and follow routines. Task paralysis is something else that makes consistency really challenging. Getting started on a task can feel extremely overwhelming, even when it comes to things that we've done multiple times in the past. Think brushing your teeth, taking a shower, writing an email, making a phone call, or just getting any simple task done. The experience of completing the same task can feel completely different day to day because some days that task can feel really easy and other days it can feel almost impossible. You may have easily read 20 pages of a book you needed to read yesterday, but today you can't even start the first sentence without feeling anxiety. And this applies to things that we want to do as well. Transitioning from one task to another is also a big obstacle with ADHD and autism as well, because it can just take a lot more out of us. And it's not just because you're changing what you're doing, it's because you have to force yourself to mentally let go of where you were. And our neurodivergence can make it really hard for us to just close out and pull away from things, especially if the thing we were doing was helping us to regulate. And as you can expect, when transitions end up taking a long time due to these issues, we end up falling off schedule and skipping the task entirely because so much time has already gone by that it can feel pointless. And in this case, it can feel very difficult for us to convince ourselves that something is worth doing, even if there's still technically a little bit of time left to do it. And this can turn into an all or nothing pattern where if things don't go exactly as planned, the whole day feels like a waste. And naturally, that leads to even more missed tasks and just a cycle that is very hard to get out of without the right systems in place. So, yeah, task paralysis and difficulty with transitions are both very big executive function challenges. Time blindness can also affect your ability to stay consistent. So, a lot of us with ADHD have difficulty accurately tracking time. The gap between now and later can be really hard to gauge, and time blindness also makes planning ahead harder because building a realistic schedule requires you to be able to sense how long things should actually take. Underestimating and overestimating how long something will take is very common. You may consistently underestimate the time it'll take you to get ready and leave for an event, and then end up having a pattern of being late despite your best efforts. Or you may overestimate where you'll expect a task to take a couple of hours, but it ends up taking a few minutes, which I'll admit this is actually easier to deal with. Without some external reinforcement tools like alarms, certain deadlines, accountability systems, time can seemingly slip away or just not even feel real sometimes. I find that when I don't use tools to really help me stay on track with time, it ends up slipping by extremely fast to the point where it actually feels kind of scary. But when those tools are there, I have a lot more control over my time. Time blindness can also show up inconsistently, at least for me. Like some days it'll be worse than it is than on other days. So a week earlier, I could have been feeling great with time management and had no issues. But this week, it may have felt impossible for me to stay on track with anything. Time blindness can really break consistency with certain routines because you miss the window, you feel behind, and then you give up. The all or nothing thinking trap is another thing that can get us off track. Missing one day or missing one task or even a part of a task can feel like a complete failure. We tend to put really high expectations on ourselves, and we can be really rigid about what counts as progress. And our definition of an acceptable level of consistency may be unrealistic from the start. We may think that consistency for us should mean never ever missing a day, or we may think it means doing something perfectly every single time with no mistakes, or it doesn't count. Those of us with ADHD can also tend to process setbacks a lot more intensely and more negatively. When we do experience setbacks, it can feel all consuming and really cloud our perspective. This is partly because of our emotional regulation issues. We can also tend to carry higher levels of shame due to excessive negative feedback that we've naturally received throughout life due to our ADHD traits, which in turn makes setbacks a lot harder to come to terms with. And the solution isn't just simply changing our mindset, but it's changing how we define success from the start. Forgetting our goals and our intentions to be consistent with things also really does not help. So, the things that we mean to do and the things that we plan to do and even start doing can literally leave our awareness with zero warning. No matter how important something is to us, without some sort of built in cue or some reminders, we can simply forget about it for months. I've had new habits I want to develop, new plans, new goals that were really important to me that I completely forgot about after a couple of days until I would randomly find old notes with these things written down months later. And it's not just long term goals either. You can be really excited about doing something in the morning and fully intend to follow through with it, but the tiniest distraction can cause you to completely forget about it. Out of sight really can be close to out of mind for a lot of us. And a lot of times, the barrier between you and the reminder for you to do that task may be too big and cause you to skip it. Something as simple as an app that's for something really important, being on the second page of your phone screen instead of the first page of it, can make you completely forget to use it. This is why willpower and motivation alone aren't really enough because they don't account for the fact that our ability to remember things and stay aware of things requires a lot of external support. And this is another reason why I created the habit blocker self assessment because it helps you pinpoint which of these patterns may be preventing you from building habits and staying consistent. It's linked in the description below if you want to grab it for free. Okay, so in order to address our difficulties with being consistent, we really need to build habits differently. Habit building for those of us with ADHD and just executive dysfunction in general requires a different approach than most standard advice tells you. If we try the 21-day method where you just do something for 21 days and then you should be able to do it forever, for us, that can actually fall apart long term. Instead of just building the habit, we have to create systems that make the action accessible to us, especially on days where we have low motivation or are feeling a lot of fatigue. Breaking tasks down smaller than what feels necessary and using micro steps can really reduce the friction that comes with initiating. Focus on the entry point to the task rather than the full task. And in order to do that, it's important to lower the bar to beginning. Clean the kitchen sounds exhausting, but put some dishes in the dishwasher is the single task that can be a bit less overwhelming. Micro steps work a lot better because they shrink the gap between deciding to do something and actually doing it. The smaller the first action is, the less you have to gear up for it. And often the good feelings you get from starting the tiniest part can end up being enough to carry you through the rest of it. You also want to link new habits to existing routines that you already do automatically on a daily basis, just to avoid overloading yourself with extra things to remember. Another thing we can do is use tools for tracking and managing our time. External time cues are simply not optional for a lot of us with ADHD because they can be the only infrastructure that allow us to thrive. So, alarms, visual timers, time blocking on a calendar, and scheduled reminders are all examples of tools we can use. Just like a musician might use a metronome to stay on beat, you may always need external cues to stay on track with time. It's also helpful to match the use of the tool to when and where the task actually happens so the cue can't easily be ignored. So if you need to remember to start dinner at 6 p.m., you can set the alarm on a loudspeaker in your kitchen or even on your TV. Because with your phone, you might tune that out easier or it just might not be near you for you to hear it. But a louder reminder coming from where the task actually happens is a lot harder to tune out. If you need to remember to take a break from your desk, what you can do is put a sticky note on your monitor rather than writing it in a planner that you have to remember to open. The cue should be somewhere that you already look, not somewhere where you have to remember to look. And these time cues really just help reduce the mental load of having to remember. Lowering your standards of what counts as consistency starting out is also really important. Instead of committing to journaling every single morning, try starting with just Tuesday and Thursday for 10 minutes. And once those 2 days feel natural and doable, then you can think about adding a third day and a fourth day and so on. Instead of planning to exercise every day, pick 2 days a week that you know are realistic given your current schedule. Because two consistent workouts that actually happen beats seven planned workouts that you never do. A lower standard that you can actually hit just helps you build momentum and also more trust in yourself, rather than a higher standard that you frequently struggle to meet. Reading for 10 minutes twice a week and actually committing to it builds a lot more momentum than trying to commit to 30 minutes a day and consistently falling short of that. If you do the smaller version of that, you'll be a lot less inclined to quit. Similarly, organizing one area of your home on a Sunday and actually following through does a lot more for your confidence than planning a full house cleaning every single weekend and never actually starting. Reframe what success means. Showing up less, but consistently is still showing up and it's still progress. And during the times where you struggle to be consistent, you can just look at it as data instead of complete failure. The data can help you plan for issues in the future, or it can help you improve or come up with newer methods that make tasks easier to do. As we use these methods more frequently, consistency should feel more attainable. You also want to house anything that you're trying to stay consistent with somewhere where you can see it. So that would include your tasks, your habits, or any routines you're trying to start. These things need to have a home that is outside of your head. They have to be written down, posted up somewhere, or scheduled. That could be a visual routine tracker, some sort of sticky note on your mirror, or even a pinned note on your phone, but it just has to be somewhere that you're naturally going to look every day. The goal is to remove that step that your brain has to remember. Because the moment that this new thing that you're trying to be consistent with lives only in your head, it's competing with everything else that's going on up there. And if you have to remember something, the less likely it is to happen. So you need to remove that step whenever you can. So instead of hoping to remember to wind down before bed, set an alarm for that purpose and even label it. That way, the prompt is going to come to you rather than you having to randomly think of it in the middle of whatever it is you're doing. Instead of trying to remember to do your skincare routine, keep the products next to your toothbrush or keep them visible somewhere. That way, they're right there. The ability to stay consistent with ADHD is based a lot on just how you design things and how you design your life rather than just your mindset. And if there's one thing that I want you to walk away with, it's this. Consistency being hard for you is not some sort of personality flaw, and it's not a sign that you can't do something. Task paralysis, time blindness, the all or nothing thinking, forgetting your own intentions. These are all very real obstacles for those of us with ADHD. But there are also things that you can build around once you understand them. Start small and build from there. If this video helped you, I'd really love it if you could give it a like. That can help other people discover this content. And if you're not subscribed already, but you want to see more of my content, go ahead and click the subscribe button. I'm going to keep making videos about managing life with ADHD, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next.